Here's
Um,
here's the
but
thing I want to touch on this real quick. And I think one of the most interesting things is that as CEOs, leaders, whatever you want to call these people, they're visionaries. So they see the company as they want it, and they're seeing it through their lens, and they're seeing it through their vision. But there's a gap between the vision and what they want and the reality of what the company is. And I think that gap is where these people are failing. So they intend to be honest. They intend to be this. Their actions don't always back it up. And then the true facts of what the organization is, that's the gap where these people are failing. Is that fair to say?
I think it's a great observation, Jake. And the problem is it starts like this,
Yeah.
but when there's no calibration that can close that gap, then you do this,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And it's not just it's whole leadership teams, right? The entire enterprise level leadership gets bubbled in and insulated from the truth. And if you've not created spaces where people can tell you what you want to tell you what you need to hear, I tell leaders all the time, this is a very, very simple metric. If you don't have somebody coming into your office once or twice a week telling you something that makes you uncomfortable, you can be very confident your leadership sucks.
Yeah, because they're afraid to speak to you. And then these executive teams live in their little bubble and they're like, well, I told the people to do it like this. Well, is it actually happening? Did you ensure that these things are getting pulled through?
Did you ensure
test
that
and measure?
could actually do it?
That's right.
And actually have the ability or the time or the resources, or did you forget about the
Is it even capable? Yeah, it's great to be able to say it and snap your fingers, but is the shit really happening?
And did you also forget about the 10 things you told them to do last week?
Exactly right.
That they're still working on, or they're working on the ones from a month ago. Yeah. Or did you bother to conclude the fact that the thing you just told them to do this week completely contradicts the thing you told them to do last week? Nope. So they're just doling out yeses because they're.
But it's easy to sit on your throne and point the finger and say, do this, do this, do this. But the money is made if you're able to do that and then monitor and help the implementation actually take place and see it through. This is the gap we're talking about.
Without doing the job for them, but to make sure that they're resourced, capable, and equipped and clear on what it is you've asked them to do. But so many, here's one of the always telling signs of an organization that's broken is when you go around the executive team and you say, so what's your strategy? And I don't want to hear the mission and values and I don't want to hear the platitudes. I want to hear how you compete, what differentiates you, what your priorities are, what you're focused on. And I go around, I get 10 different answers. Like some of them wildly different. I'm like, okay, so let's break
this
down.
Has been for the last, I would say 8, maybe, I don't know. I'll say 3/4 minimum. Our team's priority is making sure that the entire team is aligned on what the strategy is and that they can articulate it. And the reason is that we work very clear as an executive team to a certain extent. Now the executive team is very clear, but making sure the entire team is clear, and then not. And one of the huge mistakes that we've made in the past is that here are your quarterly priorities, and then we'll set new quarterly priorities before even ensuring the existing ones were implemented and they actually stuck.
Right.
So now we're just shutting it down, meaning that until this shit is actually working, implemented and adopted, and we really believe that, and the same reason why we haven't moved off that initiative of making sure that everyone's on the same page is that shit takes time. And you know what? You're pissed and it didn't happen the way you wanted it to, but until it's adopted and it's really taking place, we're not going to move on to something else because then we're just chasing our tails and wasting our time.
And companies do that all the time, Jake. Yeah. They have short-term memories, and it's the sort of the sexy, and especially if you have
new initiative.
Write a new book.
Yeah. Oh, read a book. Yeah, here was what we're doing now because this is what Jeff Bezos did yesterday, right?
But guys, I want to play devil's advocate here for a second. I understand everything you're saying, but it can be tough on leaders because we have to perform, we have to be creative, we have to be visionary, we have to try to make it happen for the company. And sometimes we take on more than we're supposed to, and sometimes we don't have, I guess, the bandwidth. So I think as leaders, we need to pull back and be aware that we're not doing that. And that's why we started doing quarterly priorities a few years ago. So if you're a leader out there who's struggling, be honest with yourself and say, am I doing the stuff that
I'm not picking on people. Like to Gino's point, I've been there and made these mistakes, and I'm speaking from experience.